Shelley Morgan was stabbed 14 times and left naked in woodland near Bristol Airport. Her killer has never been found. What makes this case so disturbing is that earlier that same day, Shelley was simply walking her children to school. It was just an ordinary day. Shelley, a mother of two, had plans for the day. She packed her camera and told her children she would be home later. She was planning a relaxing day of photography. Somewhere between the morning school run and a quiet day of photography, Shelley Morgan vanished. No screams were heard, no struggle was seen. 40 years later, the questions still remain. What happened to Shelley Morgan that day, and why? On the morning of the 11th of June 1984, Shelley did what she always did. She walked her two children to school. It was just an ordinary day. Shelley Morgan was 34 years old. She was a devoted mother, an artist, and a passionate photographer. Born in Iowa in the United States, Shelley moved to the UK in 1972. She later settled in Bristol with her husband Nigel. At the time, Nigel was working away in their second home in the Brecon Beacons. That morning, Shelley left her home in Bedminster around 8:30 a.m. She was wearing a scarlet coloured top, a white skirt, maroon tights and red framed glasses. Over her shoulder she carried a handmade patchwork carpet bag. Shelley had sewn this herself. Inside the bag was her pride and joy, an Olympus OM20 camera. She also carried sketching materials and a tripod. Shelley told her children she planned to spend the day sketching and taking photographs at Leigh Woods and the Avon Gorge, a quiet beauty spot. Shelley first walked her daughter Charlotte to a nearby junction. She left her safely with a trusted adult. She then continued along Brendan Road with her son Liam. At 8:35 a.m, Shelley watched him board his school bus. That was the last confirmed sighting of Shelley by anyone who knew her. Later that morning, between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m, Shelley was seen at the Royal Mail sorting office on Kent Street in Bristol. She collected a registered letter containing money sent weekly by her husband. After that, her movements become unclear. Witnesses later reported seeing a woman matching Shelley's description boarding a number 121 bus on East Street in Bedminster around 10 past 10 a.m. The bus was heading towards Bristol bus station. Other witnesses said Shelley later boarded another bus towards Portishead. At around 11:15 a.m, she got off near the Ashton Court area. This is where things take a dark turn. Several witnesses reported seeing a royal blue Ford Transit van pull up behind the bus. The driver, a man wearing a blue t-shirt, appeared to call Shelley over. Witnesses believe Shelley was giving the man directions. Police later suggested the two may have been travelling the same way and that Shelley may have accepted a lift. That man has never been identified. He has never come forward. By mid-afternoon, Shelley failed to collect her children from school. Friends and family immediately knew something was wrong. Shelley was reliable, careful and devoted to her children. By 7:30 p.m. that evening, Avon and Somerset Police officially listed Shelley Morgan as a missing person. A huge search followed. More than 200 missing posters were put up across Bristol and North East Somerset. Sightings were reported across the country, on buses, in cars, even on ferries. One report claimed that Shelley had boarded a ferry in Weymouth. Interpol and the Channel Islands were alerted. Every lead went nowhere. On September the 24th, 1984, police received a chilling phone call. At 7:18 p.m, an anonymous man with a local Bristol accent told officers the case was no longer a missing person inquiry. He claimed Shelley Morgan was already dead. Caller said her body lay in a watery grave along the River Avon near Hanham at the bottom of Conham Hill. 8 specialist divers searched the area for 19 days. They found nothing. The call was later logged as a hoax. Weeks later, on Sunday, October the 14th, 1984, children were playing in woodland at Watercatch Farm near Backwell, around 8 miles west of Bristol. What they found was horrifying. Lying face down in a wooded area near Bristol Airport was a naked, badly decomposed body. Dental records confirmed the truth Shelley's family had feared for months. It was Shelley Morgan. A post-mortem revealed she had been stabbed 14 times in the back. There was clear evidence that the attack had been sexually motivated. The only clothing on her body was a torn pair of tights twisted around her ankles. Her sandals were found nearby, caught in brambles. Her bag was gone, her clothes were gone, her camera was gone. Police believe Shelley was murdered on the same day she disappeared. An 80-officer murder squad was quickly assembled. Detectives believe Shelley's killer had access to a vehicle and knew the Backwell area well. The isolated dumping site suggested planning, confidence and familiarity with the land. Despite national media coverage, Crime Watch reconstructions and repeated cold case reviews, no one has ever been charged. In 1987, a 30-year-old lorry driver was questioned in connection with Shelley's murder and the killing of a 17-year-old in Melanie Road in Bath. He was later eliminated from the investigation. Shelley Morgan's case remains open. One detail continues to trouble detectives. Shelley's Olympus OM20 camera has never been found. At the time, only a few hundred of these cameras were in circulation. Police believe it may still exist, sold, gifted, or passed on without anyone knowing its history. Investigators believe the camera could still hold answers. Someone somewhere knows what happened to Shelley Morgan. How did a peaceful day of photography end in such brutal violence? Was Shelley targeted by someone she knew, or did she cross paths with a predator by chance? And one missing object, the Olympus OM20 camera, may still hold the truth. If you know something, even if it feels insignificant, you could be the person who finally answers a 40-year-old question. In 2019, Shelley's sister Holly wrote and shared a personalised victim impact statement. It wasn't written for headlines or television. It was written to explain what 40 years without answers really looks like. I'm going to share a small part of the victim impact statement.
My name is Shelley Cameron Bryan Morgan. It was a fine June day in 1984. My husband was away at our old house in the village, doing some work to prepare it for sale. I had a respite that morning while my children were in school, and I decided to take advantage of the time to photograph some scenic spots I had seen. Carrying my camera and my sketchbook, I bussed around the river area, taking pictures and enjoying myself. But then the day wore on and my children were due home. I realised I was running late and might not be there in time to meet them. I hurried to the nearest bus stop, and then you came along and my world stopped. I begged you to let me go. I just wanted to get back to my children. I wanted to be there when they got home from school, but you wouldn't let me. Then came disgust and terror and unimaginable pain. You left my broken body in the woods to be bothered by animals and the weather. But by that time, it didn't matter because I was no longer there. I was no longer there. I wasn't there when my children came home from school that day and didn't know what to do. I wasn't there when my husband rushed to our house in Bristol, full of grief and dread. I wasn't there when my desperate parents travelled to England to find me. I wasn't there when my friends were subjected to a police investigation. I wasn't there when a month after my death was confirmed, my sister had her first baby, a daughter, brought into a world that didn't seem in any way right for daughters. I wasn't there when my husband took our children back to Wales to raise alone. He never remarried. I wasn't there to see that my son got the special care he needed. I wasn't there for my daughter who was struggling in school. I wasn't there when my father's health declined and he finally died. I wasn't there when my daughter married and I never got to meet or hug my beautiful grandchildren. I wasn't there when my husband died of cancer, at home with my daughter taking care of him until the end. I never got to finish school and go back to work or see the wonderful designs I imagined would become reality. This is the life I didn't get to live. Avon and Somerset Police remain responsible for the investigation. If you have any information, no matter how small, please contact their major crime review team on 101.